I was called a useless black man by the waitress. So the next day I decided the smell of burnt coffee and wet pavement hung in the air when I walked into Darlene's diner that morning. It wasn't much, just a narrow place squeezed between a laundromat and a pawn shop. But it was where I always stopped before heading to job interviews I never got. The bell above the door gave its tired jingle, and I tried to smile like someone who still believed good things could happen before noon. Morning, I said. The waitress didn't look up from her notepad. She was middle-aged, with tired eyes that had seen too many customers and too little kindness. "Seat yourself," she said flatly. I sat near the window, the rain streaking down the glass like tears from the sky. I'd worn my only suit again, dark gray, slightly faded but pressed. My shoes were shined, my resume freshly printed, and my hope fragile but alive. I waited a few minutes before she came over. "Coffee?" "Yes, please," I said. She poured it without meeting my eyes. The black liquid steamed, bitter and alive, like my nerves. "You here for breakfast?" "Yes, ma'am. Just the breakfast special." She scribbled something and turned away, muttering under her breath. I caught a few words. Enough to know. Another useless black man probably can't even pay. At first, I thought I misheard. The sound of the rain, maybe. But when the young busboy froze in place behind the counter and looked away, I knew I hadn't imagined it. My hands trembled. I stared down at my coffee, watching the ripples form on the surface. The words sank into me like cold knives. Useless. Black. Man. 3 words that people like her threw around like crumbs of pigeons. Careless, sharp, and ordinary. I wanted to stand up and shout. To tell her I wasn't useless. That I had a degree in engineering. That I'd once built water systems for villages in Ghana before moving to the city to chase a better life. That I'd applied to 47 jobs this month. That I wasn't a charity case or a stereotype. But instead, I sat there, frozen. When the plate came, the eggs were overcooked, the bacon burned. She slid it onto the table with a clatter, her eyes daring me to complain. I didn't. I ate in silence. When I finished, I placed a $10 bill under the plate and walked out. Outside, the rain had stopped, but I didn't notice. The city moved around me. Cars honking, people rushing. But I was somewhere else entirely. I walked for hours. Past buildings I'd never enter. Past people who'd never see me. That night, as I sat in my tiny apartment staring at the cracked ceiling, the words echoed again. Useless. Black. Man. It wasn't the first time I'd been called something like that. But this time it hit differently. Maybe because I was tired. Tired of trying. Tired of pretending I didn't hear. I thought of calling my mother back home in Accra. But I didn't. She'd just tell me what she always said. "Kwame, your worth is not theirs to decide." But at that moment, I didn't believe her. So the next day I decided. I woke up before sunrise. The city was still quiet, the sky a deep indigo. I put on my work boots, not the polished shoes I wore to interviews. I dug out my old backpack from the closet. Inside were tools, gloves, and a folded piece of paper with a plan I'd sketched months ago. It was for a community water filtration system, one that could purify rainwater for the homeless shelter near the river. I'd shown it to a few NGOs, but none had funding. I'd given up on it. Until that morning. Something inside me snapped, or maybe ignited. I decided if the world refused to see my worth, I'd build it myself, brick by brick. I skipped breakfast. I didn't go to another interview. I went to Darlene's diner. When I walked in, she was there again. Same uniform, same tired eyes. She looked up and frowned. "You again?" "Yes, ma'am," I said calmly. "I left something here yesterday." She looked confused. "What?" "My dignity." The room went silent. A man at the counter turned to look. The busboy froze again. She scoffed. "You people always think you can play victim. You should be thankful I even served you." Her words rolled off me this time, because I wasn't there for her anymore. I was there for me. I placed a small card on the counter. It read, "Community Water Project, volunteers needed, clean water for all." Then I walked out. That day, I began gathering scrap materials, pipes, barrels, sand filters, from construction sites that allowed me to. Some men laughed at me. Others helped. By noon, I'd met a man named Carlos, a mechanic who offered his workshop for free. "I like your spirit," he said. "People talk too much. You do things." Together we built the first model, crude but functional. When we poured dirty water into it, clear water dripped out the other side. Just a few drops, but enough to make my heart pound. By nightfall, we'd installed the prototype near the shelter. A few homeless men gathered around, skeptical. When one of them drank from a clean side, he smiled, his teeth broken, but his eyes bright. "Man, this is good. Real good." I smiled for the first time in days. That night, I slept deeply. The next morning, I woke to find a small crowd around the shelter. Word had spread. People were lining up for clean water. Some local reporters showed up, asking who built it. I told them my name, Kwame Mensah, and explained the project. They took pictures, asked questions. I didn't mention the waitress. I didn't need to. But later that afternoon, when I passed by the diner again, I saw her standing outside, smoking. She looked at me for a long moment. Maybe she recognized me from the newspaper. Maybe she didn't. "Morning," I said softly. She said nothing, just flicked her cigarette and turned away. I smiled and kept walking. The city felt different now. Not kinder, not easier, but clearer. Over the next weeks, more people joined. Volunteers, donors, engineers, even students from the university. We built 5 more filtration units. The news called me the Rain Man of Brookdale. But with attention came other things, politicians, investors, and people who saw profit where I saw purpose. One evening, I got a letter. No return address. Inside was a single sentence typed, "Stay out of the River District. You're not wanted there." I stared at it for a long time. The smell of smoke from Darlene's diner drifted through the window, and for the first time in weeks, the fear returned. Was I building hope or provoking something darker? I folded the letter, slipped it into my jacket pocket, and stepped outside. The rain had begun again, falling in slow, heavy drops. I looked toward the river, the shelter lights flickering in the distance, and whispered to myself, "So, the next day, I'll decide again." Then I started walking, into the rain, into the unknown, into whatever waited beyond the fog. The letter stayed in my pocket for days. Every time I reached for my phone or wallet, my fingers brushed against the folded paper, and that single line echoed in my head. "Stay out of the River District. You're not wanted there." I didn't know who sent it, but I knew why. Ever since the first water filter went up, people had started talking. Some praised me. Others whispered. The local paper ran a story titled, "The Engineer Who Cleans the City's Water." But not everyone liked the idea of a man like me, an immigrant, a black man, someone without connections, getting attention for doing something the government hadn't. By the 3rd week, the project had grown. 6 filters, 30 volunteers, and enough donations to plan a small treatment plant. I should have been proud. Instead, I felt watched. Carlos noticed too. "Someone's been coming around the workshop at night," he said one morning. "Didn't steal anything, but I saw footprints in the mud, boots, heavy ones." I tried to laugh it off. Probably kids. But deep down, I knew it wasn't kids. That night, I went to the river alone. The rain had stopped, and fog curled over the water like smoke. The filter unit we built there was still running, a soft, steady gurgle that had become the sound of my days. Someone had scrawled words on the side of it in red paint. "Go home." I stood there for a long time, staring, my hands clenched into fists. For a moment, I wanted to rip the whole thing down. But then I heard footsteps behind me. "Didn't expect to see you here," a voice said. I turned. It was Darlene, the waitress from the diner. She stood under a flickering streetlight, her face pale in the mist. "I heard what you've been doing," she said. "The papers won't shut up about you." I said nothing. She shifted uncomfortably. "Listen about what I said that day. I was angry. Tired. I didn't mean—" "Yes, you did," I said quietly. She froze. But maybe you didn't understand what it meant, I added. Her eyes softened, and for the first time, she looked human, not just bitter. People around here, they don't like change. They don't trust outsiders, especially ones who start making noise. I frowned. Noise, she sighed. You're shaking things up. There's money tied up in the water contracts in this district. Big money. Some folks won't like you fixing things for free. Then she turned and started walking away. Darlene, I called after her. Who sent the letter? She stopped but didn't turn. Just stay away from the river at night. Kwame. Some things don't end well for men who try to do good here. And then she was gone, swallowed by the fog. Over the next few days, I kept working. I told myself I wasn't afraid, but the truth was, I jumped at every sound. My volunteers noticed. You okay, boss? A young woman named Lydia asked as we installed a new unit behind the old textile mill. Just tired, I said. But that night, when I went back to the river to check the valves, I found the unit destroyed. The pipes were smashed, the filter ripped out, the tank shattered. It felt like someone had gutted my heart and left the pieces in the mud. Carlos found me there, kneeling in the wreckage, the rain starting again. They did it on purpose, he said. Whoever sent that letter meant it. I nodded slowly. Then we rebuilt it, stronger. He stared at me. Kwame, this is more than broken pipes now. You need to talk to someone, maybe the press or the police. The police? I laughed bitterly. You think they care about a few broken pipes? About a black man trying to fix dirty water? He didn't answer. 2 days later, a city official came to see me. His name was Mr. Raymond Haskins, a tall man with slick hair and a smile that didn't reach his eyes. He wore an expensive suit that smelled faintly of cologne and arrogance. Mr. Mensa, he said, shaking my hand too firmly. I represent the city's Department of Public Works. We've been following your little project. Little, I said quietly. He smiled. Admirable, really, but you're operating without permits, without safety checks. You're interfering with official water systems. I'm afraid we'll have to ask you to cease operations immediately. People are drinking clean water for the first time in years, I said. You'd rather they go back to polluted wells? He leaned closer. What people drink is not your concern, Mr. Mensa. It's ours. Leave it alone. I looked him in the eyes. Or what? He smiled wider. Or you'll find that accidents happen near the river. Then he turned and walked away, leaving the smell of expensive cologne and corruption in the air. That night, I couldn't sleep. I kept hearing water dripping in my mind. Drip, drip, drip. At dawn, I went to the river again. The fog was thicker than usual, curling around me like ghosts. But when I reached the bank, I froze. Someone was there, standing by the remains of the smashed filter. It was Darlene. She looked terrified. Her hands were shaking, her hair damp with rain. You shouldn't have come, she whispered. What happened? I asked. They're watching you, Kwame. Haskins, the contractors. There's money in dirty water. They keep people sick so they can keep control. You're making them nervous. Who's they? Before she could answer, a car engine roared behind us. Headlights cut through the fog. Run, she shouted. I grabbed her arm and pulled her toward the bridge. The car's tires screeched on the wet road. A man leaned out the window, shouting something I couldn't hear over the rain. We ran. When we reached the middle of the bridge, Darlene slipped. I caught her hand just as she lost her footing, her eyes wide, full of fear. Go, she yelled. Don't let them see you. But I didn't let go. The car skidded to a stop behind us. 2 men stepped out, one carrying a flashlight, the other something that looked like a metal pipe. Leave her, the taller one said. This isn't your fight, boy. I tightened my grip. It's exactly my fight. The man smiled, a cruel, easy smile. Then you'll drown in it. He swung the pipe. I dodged barely. The sound of metal against concrete echoed through the fog. I shoved Darlene toward the other side of the bridge. Run. She hesitated, then ran. I turned back, my heart pounding. The second man lunged. We struggled, slipping on the wet ground. He was stronger, But I was desperate. I grabbed the metal pipe and swung it once hard. He fell. For a moment, the only sound was the rain. Then I looked up and realized Arlene was gone. The bridge was empty. The car was gone. The fog was thicker now, swallowing everything. I stood there, chest heaving, the pipe heavy in my hands, water dripping from my face. Something moved in the fog. A shadow, then another, voices, and then sirens. I turned toward the sound, but too late. Blue lights flashed through the mist. A voice shouted through a loudspeaker. Hands where we can see them. I froze, the pipe still in my hand, the man unconscious at my feet. I opened my mouth to explain, but the words wouldn't come. All I could think was how fast everything had changed. From building hope to standing on a bridge, surrounded by fog, accused of violence I didn't start. A flashlight beam hit my face. Down! Now! I raised my hand slowly, the letter still in my pocket, soaked through by rain. And as they cuffed my wrists, I looked out toward the river, where the broken water filter still dripped clean water into the mud. Drip, drip, drip. A small sound of hope, still running. The river still remembers. The cell was cold, the kind of cold that sank through your skin and settled in your bones. The walls were gray, sweating with condensation. Somewhere far down the corridor, a man coughed, a deep, hopeless sound. It had been 3 nights since the bridge. They said I attacked a city employee, that I resisted arrest, that I was a threat. No one mentioned the letter. No one mentioned the car or Darlene or the men with the pipe. When they asked why I was at the river, I told them the truth. They didn't write it down. I was just another story they'd already decided how to end. On the 4th day, a lawyer came to see me. A young woman, sharp eyes, calm voice. Her name was Naomi Pierce. I read about your project, she said, sitting across from me, and about the incident. They're trying to make an example out of you. Who are they? I asked. She smiled faintly. The ones who always hide behind the word they. But I'm not here to talk about them. I'm here to get you out. She slid a folder across the table. Inside were photographs of the smashed filter, the red graffiti, the bruises on my wrists. Someone tipped off a journalist, she said. A man named Tomas Vega. He's been investigating corruption in the Department of Public Works for months. He says your arrest might connect to a bigger story. Hope flickered again, fragile but alive. What about Darlene? I asked. The waitress. She was there that night. Naomi hesitated. She's missing. I stared at her. Missing? Her apartment's empty. No one's seen her since the night on the bridge. The room tilted slightly, as if the air had been pulled out of it. She tried to warn me. I whispered. Naomi nodded. Then she probably knew something worth silencing. A week later, I was released on bail. Carlos met me outside the station, his face drawn but determined. They said you're lucky, he muttered. But luck has nothing to do with it. The stories everywhere. People are marching. Clean water for all. It's all over social media. He handed me a phone. The screen showed a video. Volunteers rebuilding the destroyed unit near the river. Lydia stood in front of the camera, her hands dirty, her voice strong. This project belongs to all of us, she said, and no threat will stop it. I couldn't speak. My throat tightened until it hurt. 2 nights later, Naomi and Tomas met me in Carlos's workshop. The air smelled of oil and iron. Papers and photos covered the workbench. Tomas pointed to a map. This is the river district, he said. For years, contract for water purification have been funneled through shell companies. One of them, Clear Source Industries, is owned by a man named Haskins, I said. He nodded. Exactly. Every new unit you built cut into their profits. Millions in contracts, bribes, and kickbacks. You weren't just cleaning water. You were cleaning their pockets. Naomi looked up from the papers. We have enough to expose them. But we need proof of sabotage, something that ties Haskins directly to the attack. I thought of Darlene, her trembling hands, her warning. She might have it, I said softly, if she's still alive. For the next week, we searched. Every lead went nowhere. Her phone was dead. Her apartment stripped bare. Then one night, I got a message from an unknown number. No words, just a picture. It showed Darlene, standing on a dock, her face bruised, holding something wrapped in plastic. Behind her, a sign read, Brookdale Storage, Dock 9. The photo's timestamp was from 2 nights ago. Carlos saw it first. It's a trap, he said. Maybe, I replied. But if she's alive, I have to go. Naomi's jaw tightened. Then we go together. We reached Dock 9 after midnight. The fog was thick again, the river whispering against the pylons. The warehouse door creaked as we pushed it open. Inside, the air smelled of rust and damp paper. Old boxes, barrels, and broken furniture were stacked to the ceiling. And there, sitting on the floor, was Darlene. Her hands were bound, but she was breathing. When she saw me, her eyes filled with tears. "You came," she whispered. I rushed to untie her. "We thought you were dead." She shook her head weakly. "They took me after the bridge. Wanted to know what I told you." "Who?" "Haskins and others. There's a drive, proof of everything. I hid it." "Where?" Naomi asked. Darlene's lips trembled. "In the water filter. The one they destroyed. The memory chip, it's inside the housing valve." Before we could react, a voice echoed through the warehouse. "Well, that saves us some trouble." We turned. Haskins stepped out of the shadows, flanked by 2 men, the same ones from the bridge. His suit was immaculate, his smile sharp. "Mr. Mensah," he said, "you could have been a useful man. Instead, you chose to be righteous. That's always bad for business." I stepped in front of Darlene. "Business built on poison isn't business, it's rot." He chuckled. "Poison? No. Control. People pay for what they need. And when they're desperate, they pay more." Naomi whispered to me, "Keep him talking." But Haskins wasn't stupid. He nodded toward us. "Take the girl and the lawyer. We'll deal with our idealist here." Before they could move, Carlos burst through the side door with a wrench in his hand. "Not tonight," he shouted, swinging at one of the guards. Chaos erupted. Tomas appeared behind him, camera rolling. "Everything's live," he yelled. "Smile for the city, Haskins." Haskins froze. "You idiot." He lunged to the camera, but Naomi grabbed his arm, twisting it behind his back. "End of control," she hissed. The guards fled. Haskins struggled free and ran toward the exit, disappearing into the fog. We didn't chase him. We called the police, but by the time they arrived, Haskins was gone. The next morning, every major network carried the footage. The corruption, the threats, the warehouse confrontation. All of it. "Hero engineer exposes city water scandal," the headlines read. People marched again, not for me this time, but for clean water, for justice, for Darlene, who sat beside me on a hospital bed, her face bruised but proud. "You saved me," she whispered. I smiled faintly. "No, you saved us. You warned me." She squeezed my hand. "Don't stop now." Weeks passed. Haskins vanished, but the investigation continued. The mayor promised reform. The city began funding community-built filters. For the first time, I felt something like peace. Yet one night, as I walked along the river, I found a small envelope wedged under the filter's metal frame. No name, no return address. Inside was a single line, typed just like before: "You clean the water, but can you clean the truth?" I looked out over the river. The water was calm, the reflection of city lights rippling softly. Somewhere, in the distance, thunder rolled. Was it over? Or just beginning again? I felt the weight of both possibilities pressing on my chest, because the river still remembered. Every secret, every lie, every drop of blood and hope that fell into it. And so did I. The river has no borders. It had been 6 months since the night at Dock 9. 6 months since the footage went viral. Since Haskins disappeared. Since the city tried to pretend it had learned something. But the truth is, cities forget. People move on. And corruption doesn't die. It just changes its clothes. The new mayor stood in front of cameras, smiling, calling my project a model of civic partnership. But I watched from the crowd and saw the same men in suits whispering behind him. Different faces. Same game. Carlos and Lydia still work with me. We had expanded. 20 filtration units now, across 3 neighborhoods. Naomi started a nonprofit to protect whistleblowers. Darlene ran the diner again, her hands still trembling sometimes when she poured coffee. We were surviving, maybe even healing. Then one morning, an envelope arrived at my apartment. Brown paper. No return address. My name typed cleanly on the front. Inside was a passport photo, mine, and a plane ticket to Accra, Ghana. No note this time. Just one line stamped on the back of the ticket.